Welcome to the second learning module of Future Us, a roadmap to elder abuse prevention. My name is Benedict Schöpflin. I'm the Executive Director of the Canadian Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse. On March 24th, 2022, CNPEA released Future Us, a roadmap to elder abuse prevention. You can access it at futureus.cnpea.ca in French and in English. We kicked off our series of 5 modules hosted by NICE with an overview of Future Us. Today, it is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Celeste Pang, Senior Research Officer, 2S LGBTQI Health, Aging and Housing for Egale Canada, one of our project partners, who will elaborate on the research component of Future Us. This module will highlight research priorities and opportunities for addressing elder abuse in Canada. We hope you will join us over the next 2 days for more modules that will tackle practice, policy, and the law to address elder abuse in Canada. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Celeste Pang. Take it away, Celeste.
Thanks so much for inviting me to the session. So today I'll be talking about the research aspect of the Future Us, a roadmap to the prevention of elder abuse. As the title suggests, this session focuses on what researchers can do. So over the next 30 to 40 minutes, I'm going to be reporting back on the group discussions that the Future Us collaborators and committee members have had about the role that research can play in elder abuse prevention efforts in Canada. Specifically, I will be outlining 4 principles and 3 pathways for elder abuse research in Canada. Before we get started, especially as I'm going to be off screen for this session, I'd like to briefly introduce myself. My name is Celeste Pang, and I work as a Senior Research Officer in the Research Department at Egale. I was one of the committee members working closely with the CNPEA and others on the Future Us strategy on behalf of Egale. For those of you in the audience who are not familiar, Egale is Canada's leading organization for 2S LGBTQI people and issues. We improve and save lives through research, education, awareness, and by advocating for human rights and equality in Canada and around the world. Our work helps create societies and systems that reflect the universal truth that all persons are equal and none is other. In our research department specifically, we conduct a wide range of research related to 2S LGBTQI people and issues in collaboration with communities, other organizations, and university-based academics. Among our current work is focus on 2S LGBTQI aging, health and housing issues, mental health, and underemployment. Egale is located on the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit and the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Wendat, and the Haudenosaunee people. The territory is protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and allied nations to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. Indigenous people from across Turtle Island continue to call this place home, and this is where I'm joining you from today. So, as you know, as you would have heard in the first session, Future Us is designed as a practical guide for a wide audience. It is intended to serve as a pan-Canadian action plan with many routes to the shared destination of elder abuse prevention. So to reiterate, this session today focuses practically on researchers and what researchers can do to contribute to elder abuse prevention efforts in Canada. It includes a discussion of the research-oriented components of the Future Us Elder Abuse Prevention Roadmap and includes additional contextualization, questions, and examples. With the premise that elder abuse is a social issue that demands social response, in this session, I will share principles and pathways for elder abuse research in Canada that foregrounds the need for research that recognizes a range of expertise and that is deeply attuned to the specific needs of different communities. The ideas I will share in this session were developed through collective thinking and conversations among the project partners. However, any omissions in this presentation are my own. The session's not meant to provide definitive answers or be all-encompassing, but is rather intended as a source of provocation, perhaps inspiration, and ongoing conversation. So overarchingly, what researchers can do can be encapsulated by 3 overarching tenets. First, to build on existing knowledge. Second, to build on and trouble existing paradigms. And third, to advance research about elder abuse that is critical, community engaged, and capacity building. These are tenets that relate and lend directly to the three overarching goals of the Future S strategy. Within this, our four proposed principles are as follows, and I'll expand on these shortly. So, first, to recognize expertise, to examine systemic and structural issues, to engage community and build capacity, and to appreciate distinct experiences. The three pathways that we have identified are topical, about resources, and about coalition building. So let's get into the four principles to begin. Our first proposed principle is to recognize expertise. So historically, academically trained researchers, legal professionals, as well as service providers have been considered experts in the field of elder abuse research. Conventional understandings of expertise in recent years have expanded to embrace different ways of knowing and greater acknowledgement that all knowledge is situated knowledge. A more expansive understanding of expertise, in quotations, includes lived experiences and diverse professional backgrounds that can be included to develop, pursue, and mobilize elder abuse research. So, this can be done, for example, through troubling paradigms that focus on a singular expert as a holder of knowledge and looking more towards the multiplicity of knowledge that can be brought together and also that one person may hold. To embrace expansive understandings about lived experiences and professional backgrounds and how people from a range of backgrounds may contribute to research and as researchers to working towards the goal of elder abuse prevention. And very importantly, it can mean creating meaningful and robust community and academic links. So, especially, we'll discuss resources in a little bit, but as we see where funding for research flows to recognize experts in the academy, how can university based academics work meaningfully with community on elder abuse research? So, to this end, we don't have answers, but we do have questions that you can ask yourself if you are a researcher or are interested in pursuing research in this area. So, for example, at stages of conception, who is involved in a research project? Are they involved in conceptualizing, creating, analyzing, mobilizing? How can your research be a venue for amplifying existing knowledges and expertise? So, using research as a platform, especially to amplify underrepresented perspectives or communities. And how can research be mobilized to address community needs? In tune with this, our second principle is about examining systemic and structural issues. So, the Future S strategy suggests advancing analyses that can serve to identify and situate social and structural dynamics that create conditions that increase elder abuse and that shape experiences of elder abuse from multiple perspectives. So, for example, researchers can advance gender based and intersectional analyses to help us understand how policies and social norms create disparity across groups of older people. Strong critical analysis can facilitate understandings of ageism or ableism as a form of systemic violence that can shape individual experiences of elder abuse in diverse populations. And importantly, examining structural and systemic issues de individualizes elder abuse towards creating a more robust and impactful understanding of underlying causes and promising solutions. And this is an area to which multidisciplinary research could lend strongly to. So, as you go through the Future S roadmap, you can take a look at the ecological model that's used in it, which emphasizes a joint and integrated focus on societal, community, and relational aspects of elder abuse, along with consideration of the individual. So, thinking with this diagram here, we can consider different social dynamics informing why elder abuse happens, which can in turn inform more effective prevention efforts. We can also continue to consider, as researchers, different forms of power and privilege that distinct communities and groups of people hold in Canadian society today. So, from here, in the strategy as a whole, we've emphasized the roles that different people and parts of society can play in working towards elder abuse prevention. So, this includes in research, where we have identified the need to engage community and build capacity as a key priority. So this can include advancing community engaged and community led research. And the point of time in an arc of research is very important here. So are you engaging community members, community groups, community leaders at the beginning stages of the project as an afterthought at the end? This will make a difference for what is learned, how it's learned, and also if you're doing more intervention type research, the impact of what you make out of your research findings. So, to that end, we recommend engaging with communities towards defining research questions and designing research projects, and also thinking of research as something that can serve a role alongside programming and community engagement to build capacities within communities to then further address and prevent elder abuse. So there are many stellar examples about this kind of research and how to do research that is community engaged and capacity building. I certainly can't provide an exhaustive explanation of these, but in relation to elder abuse, on the slide here, there are a small handful that I have turned to. So, first is an example of a report that was published in 2015 regarding promising practices for housing women who are older and fleeing violence or abuse. So, we'd encourage you to check this resource out. Regarding elder abuse again, there is a project about raising awareness and addressing elder abuse in the LGBT community. So, this was an arts based research project that engaged LGBT older adults, and it was led by Claire Robson, Gloria Gutman, and colleagues in British Columbia. And interestingly, and really well done, were a series of videos about elder abuse in LGBT communities that were kind of part of the process and result of this research. So, this is an example of engaging community, building capacity, and also mobilizing that knowledge in a very publicly accessible way. And information about that work can be accessed at the link on the slide. And finally, one of many examples again about how to conduct really intentional, kind of ethical community engaged research is a Research 101 Manifesto for Ethical Research in the Downtown East Side. It's something I found myself turning to again and again. And it has many easy to read ideas about how to ethically and respectfully engage communities at all stages of a research process, including discussions about ownership and compensation, which we recommend would be part of all elder abuse research. And our final principle, number 4, is about appreciating distinct experiences. So this entails both the involvement of historically underrepresented groups in research as researchers and participants, and a continued reflexive and intersectional approach to research design and analysis. So project designs need to build in ongoing reflection with respect to participant positionality and how power is used and shared within the group as well. So appreciating distinct experiences, not only in terms of what we want to be able to say about different groups in our research findings, but also the process of research itself. And critically, elder abuse research must also consider more robustly multiple and intersecting valences of ageism, ableism, racism, heterosexism, and other axes of oppression in analyses and intervention efforts going forward. So, to this end, again, no answers, only questions for you. So, you can ask yourself, for example, how do your research methods welcome in some groups while potentially excluding others? We can think about how racism can be part of elder abuse, how ableism may be part of elder abuse. We can also think about how elder abuse as a concept translates or doesn't translate among different sociolinguistic groups. So, is elder abuse as a term something that exists everywhere? Is elder abuse as a concept something that exists everywhere? And if it doesn't, then what is the language that people use to understand things to do with what some may call elder abuse? Or what what do different communities consider as potentially part of this concept of what is elder abuse? So this is something that can continue to be explored in research, again, towards better understanding and towards creating really community specific interventions that a community is demanding, that different community members may need, and that will also be legible. to them. With that, moving to the 3 pathways for elder abuse research in Canada. So we're imagining kind of the principles as principles that can inform any research, and pathways as pathways that these principles can flow into, but also very material and practical pathways. So including topical pathways. So existing areas of focus in elder abuse research, there are prevalence studies, there are focus on risk factors for elder abuse. Some future areas for increased focus in this field of research could be, for example, more in-depth exploration of connections between other forms of social oppression and elder abuse. As I mentioned in the previous slide, examination of community-specific understandings and perceptions of elder abuse. So that would start with really questioning, as a researcher coming in, what is it that we are talking about, and is what we're talking about matching up or not with the understandings that a community that we want to better understand already holds. And also continued prevalence studies, especially as numbers and statistics in the world we live in do have a strong impact on policy and policy change. So, some key questions that researchers, emergent researchers may ask could include: how does a specific community view the mistreatment of older adults? What social dynamics may prevent people from reporting elder abuse? And what resolutions do they seek? So, in this point here, assuming that some researchers will be working towards a specific goal of the prevention of elder abuse. Evidently, it's not always preventable. Sometimes recourse needs to be sought. So, what is that recourse? What are people using and what are they not using? What are people understanding as accessible, as appropriate, as safe paths for them to seek help and support? And using research as a way to examine this and to better understand this can then lend to better tailoring different forms of solutions and resolutions for people. And I also want to give a nod here to an example of the most recent and robust prevalence study in Canada with data from 2015, which is the Into the Light report. That can be accessed in this link through the CNPEA. Our second very practical pathway towards improving elder abuse research in Canada and expanding elder abuse research are resources. So, quite straightforward, research requires funding, and directing resources towards community engaged, intersectoral, and multi year projects can enhance the state of knowledge on elder abuse, as well as knowledge mobilization and intervention efforts. So, funding is needed for research that focuses on or incorporates elder abuse as a core topic. Funding is needed for research that is community engaged. Funding is needed for multi-year research to knowledge mobilization projects, and I'll give an example in the next slide. And if you're in a position as a researcher where you already have a large grant, for example, or you're thinking about a topic related to elder abuse, that may be more fundable in the current climate, we can think about how to integrate questions around elder abuse into other research and how to redirect resources from existing projects to examine and address elder abuse. So for funders, we're speaking here, we can be speaking about many different forms of funding, but what can this fund cover in research, which impacts the kind of elder abuse research that can be done? So does your fund allow compensation and fair compensation for peer researchers? For example, does it allow compensation for community-based researchers? Does it allow compensation for advisory committee members and or for participants? So these will all be really critical in, again, who is welcomed into a space, who can take time to participate in research, and ultimately whose perspectives and which communities' perspectives are informing the state of knowledge about elder abuse in Canada. And I'll direct you here to a research compensation series that Amanda Grenier and others have worked on, which are a series of, I believe, 5 different resources that speak specifically to this question of funding and compensation. As I mentioned in the previous slide, as researchers, we can consider how to direct resources in existing relevant research towards exploring questions about elder abuse and prevention and intervention. And we can also take advantage, and we'd encourage funders to also continue to fund these multi-year projects in which research, aspects of education, or knowledge mobilization and awareness raising are integrated. So I'll give you an example here from a project that I've been working on at Egale, which is focused on the experiences of 2S LGBTQI people living with dementia and their primary unpaid carers. You can learn more about it at our research hub, but essentially the funding for this project was through the Public Health Agency of Canada and has included as part of these integrated phases, research and education. So within the same funding period, without having to be like, we'll see, or maybe we'll apply to another fund, we're able to directly translate our research findings into open access e-modules as part of the whole project plan. So something like this is something that I think could greatly benefit elder abuse prevention research. And finally, as a group, we discussed in depth this idea of coalition building, and specifically coalition building towards elder abuse prevention in Canada. So, elder abuse doesn't exist in a vacuum, neither does research. So, how can we consider areas of shared concern, commonality, and bridge building across a research life cycle? How can we continue to build meaningful bridges with other areas of critical scholarship to advance this field of research? How can we continue to build bridges with direct service organizations and community groups to facilitate and do this research? And yet again, how can we think about elder abuse as we're thinking about other social issues and research topics that we may be investigating? So, this is really a question about, I think, seeking out collaboration, making relationships, and also being attuned to what's going on in our own locales and our own, as researchers, disciplinary areas. So, do we know, for example, who's addressing elder abuse or issues around mistreatment of older adults in our area? Again, of scholarship, of where we live, what could we do practically to collaborate with people and organizations working towards elder abuse prevention in the future? These are questions we can ask ourselves. As an example, again, just to cite recent work that I've been involved with at IGAL and also with some of the project partners of this project as well, we worked on a community conversation around elder abuse and financial abuse, specifically about 2S LGBTQI communities in Canada. And this was an opportunity where we were able to bring together elements of community engagement, of research analysis, and worked closely with another organization to bring this to life. And then, of course, a real applause to the CNPEA for building this really strong coalition, I think, and this really strong connection and creating spaces for the exchange of perspectives, ideas, and strategies that have built the Future S roadmap that you are able to access, to work with, to critique, to take forward that we now have. So, in sum, the research priorities and pathways that we have proposed in this roadmap are certainly not exhaustive. There's certainly many different kinds of experts out there, and you will have more ideas. And there's lots of room to build in elder abuse research. I think this is one of the take homes is that there is a paucity of research, and the research is needed. And researchers can and must continue to play an important role in elder abuse prevention in Canada. If you have not yet visited the site, you can see the Future Us roadmap online at futureus.cnpea.ca. You can also sign up for CNPEA's newsletter. The link is on the slide there. If you'd like to learn more about EGAL's research, education, awareness raising, and advocacy, you can see our homepage at this link as well, egal.ca. And going forward, if you have any kind of questions, comments, queries, want to reach out to me directly, again, my name is Celeste Pang, and I can be reached at cpang@egal. So thank you very, very much again to the CNPEA for bringing EGAL on board in this collaboration. And thank you all for listening to the session today, and stay tuned for the upcoming ones.
Thank you, Celeste. Join us later today at 2:30 p.m. Eastern for our next session hosted by Raeann Rideout of Elder Abuse Prevention Ontario. See you there.